Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to tit-bits on business and finance with me. The Finance Ministry released its monthly economic review for April 2021, giving its official version of the state of the Indian economy. While a government's review of the economy is expected to be authentic and unbiased, that is not so in most nations today, and there is often a wide divergence between what we call the real economy and the government's version of it. Governments worldwide prefer to paint a rosy and upbeat picture of their economy in order to suit the ruling politicians. That happens in countries like USA, UK, and China, of course, and India has been no exception to it. Unfortunately, the variance between the real economy and the government's version of it in India is so glaring that government's claims and contentions about the state of the Indian economy today are just not believed and are taken with a ton of salt. Anyway, let's review the review that the government has presented of April 21. The top highlights of the government's April review of the Indian economy are as follows. The first thing that the government says is that the second wave of the pandemic poses a downside to India's economic activities in the current quarter ending on 30th June 2021. While there is a downside that it considers, but it yet contends that as compared to last year, when there was a national lockdown during this period, its impact on the economy this time is expected to remain muted. This is what the government contends. The second contention of the government is that the economy is learning to operate with COVID-19. That is, COVID is now accepted to be the new normal in the matter of economic activities, which is a silver lining of resilience amidst this second wave. While that is actually so, there is a sense of resilience which has come in, there's a sense of acceptance which has come in, yet the government gets no credit for it. It is the struggling businessman and the taxpayer who gets credit for the resilience that the economy is showing. The review then says that high frequency indicators show that economic momentum in India has moderated and slowed down in April 2021, and that's because of localized restrictions on movement of goods and people which have been imposed by various state governments. It then says that the much higher loads of corona cases with new peaks of daily deaths and infections, they present a challenge to the ongoing economic recovery in India. Of course, the peak is nowhere in sight, and so is the case of recovery that the government contends. Further, the review says that the financial and fiscal position of the government has improved because of revival of economic activities in the second half of financial year 21. According to it, net direct tax collections were 5% higher than those of financial year 20, which is the previous year. And so was the case with indirect tax collections, which it says were higher by 12.3% as compared to financial year 1920. The review then says that agriculture remains the silver lining of the economy and that corporate earnings have showed a turnaround in quarter 4 of financial year 21, which is the quarter ended 31st March 21, and it mentions that corporate incomes have increased by 12.5% during this quarter. The review then says that growth since April 2019 has been showing an increasing formalization of the Indian economy. Its next contention or its next review is that inflation remains elevated, whether core, whether food, whether consumer, or whether wholesale inflation. The review then mentions that imports have gone up by 166% in April 2021 and so have exports by 197%, showing that there has been some kind of a resumption of economic activity taking place. These are the highlights of the government's monthly review of the Indian economy for April 2021. The impression that the government's monthly economic review seeks to give is that the effect of COVID-2 on the economy has been moderate and muted and is not so serious, and that things should soon turn around in the foreseeable future. It says that even though the present uncertainty of COVID is so dense that it would be wrong to paint a picture of this sort. The fact is that the Modi government is known to paint a rosy picture of the economy, considerably deviating from the ground reality, and for sheer political reasons, it has always been unwilling and reluctant to accept the bitter truths as far as the economy is concerned. Its top authorities have been often seeing non existing green shoots of recovery since the past many months, and they have been giving specious assurances of economic recovery, which perhaps they themselves do not believe in, and neither do the statistics show so, but they have always been claiming so. And this is now evident when we talk about this monthly economic review, which very clearly underplays the economic crisis and talks of its muted effect on recovery that is far away from setting in. No durable recovery has set into the economy so far at all so far. The grave issues that this government review of the Indian economy does not talk about are many according to us and show its deviation from a grim ground reality. Let's discuss those issues. The issues that the government's review does not talk about. The first one, the COVID waves have inflicted a huge damage on jobs, businesses, and livelihood, giving a massive setback to India's growth and development. This review is silent about rising poverty, which a recent Pew report estimates that 75 million Indians, which is one third of our middle class, has already slid into poverty and further are sliding into it. It does not talk about an estimated 230 million Indians whose daily earnings are now below the national minimum wage of rupees 375 per day. Nor does it talk about rising joblessness, which as per a CMI report stands at 8% in April 2021 as against 6.5% in March 2021. India has now reversed its 20-year trend of reducing poverty each year, and millions have fallen into the poverty trap, thus posing a huge humanitarian and economic crisis for us. This grave issue the report does not talk about. The second issue that it bypasses is about the MSME sector. The MSME sector is reeling under a crisis with no end in sight. An industry report says that of the 63 million MSME units in India, 10% have already closed down, 12% are struggling to remain afloat, and 50% are facing financial difficulties. Jobs and livelihood are being lost rampantly in this sector, and that's a matter of serious concern, about which there is not even a passing reference in the government's monthly review. The next issue is about the government's fiscal situation. The government says that its fiscal situation has improved because tax collections have been much better. Then why is not cutting the petrol and diesel prices that have been tormenting the common man and which have fueled inflation in India? The next point is about the Indian industry and its financial suffering. The Indian industry and households are yet to recover from the financial suffering of COVID-1 and its savings have plummeted. Spending on investment will be pruned again, setting the economy back even further. That's a matter of concern. The next, the formal economy. The formal economy may be inching back to normal, but that's not the case with the informal economy, which today constitutes half of India's GDP and employs about 411 million workers who are slipping into unemployment, underemployment, and poverty. We again see this review bypassing this serious matter. The next is it underplays the impact of the ongoing lockdown. It calls them localized and ignores the fact that their impact has been pan-India on the national economy and the national economy has slowed down considerably. It also fails to mention that credit growth has touched a 59-year low in India, showing a lack of confidence in the lender as well as the borrower, and that raises a question mark on their ability to invest and spend in future. We think that with the lingering uncertainty about when will the second COVID wave end and experts warning of a third wave in July, August this year, it is still too early and premature to say that the effect of the present COVID wave has been muted and moderate, as the Finance Ministry says in its monthly review. We would always prefer that the real picture be spoken of in an unbiased manner, however grave it be, so that real and genuine measures and policies can be formulated and worked out in order to tackle an unprecedented economic crisis that we face. The COVID induced economic crisis is already on the way out in countries like USA, UK, European nations, and China, and their economies are showing good signs of revival. But as far as India is concerned, we still continue to be tormented by COVID, and we still continue to face a slowing economy, which we think is also in a contracting phase all over again. It's too early to predict, it's too early to estimate, it's too early to say that the impact has been muted and moderate, as the finance ministry says. We think it's time to be cautious, and it's time not to give these kind of rosy looking pictures. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.